Day 1, Basic Calculator. Let's start with the basic calculator using Python. This project will involve implementing a simple command line calculator that can perform basic arithmetic operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. To start the implementation, first I have created a file called as day1.py in a folder called as online training. The first step is to write a function in Python, function to add two numbers. So that's the first step. We have to do the same thing for subtraction, multiplication, and divide. So let's start writing functions in Python. Now, functions in Python start with def, with definition of a function and the name of the function. Again, what parameters or arguments does it take? It takes two arguments, x, comma, y. And then this is the start of the function. So what happens is whenever you call an add function, you have to pass two parameters or arguments which are numbers, let's say 2 and 3. And then what will it return? The response from this function is addition of x plus 5. Simple as that. Similarly, for subtraction, and I return x minus y. Now similarly for multiplication, and you return x times y. And finally for division, we have to check in this case what if the value of y is 0, because division by 0 is not allowed. If y equal to 0, then I will say return error division by 0 not allowed, else. So this is a good example of if else loop where it will check if the value of y is 0. If it's not 0, then it's going to go inside this loop which will return x divided by y as the value. So that takes care of all our basic arithmetic operations that a calculator might support in our case. So let's go ahead and define the calculator function. And this one doesn't take any parameters, so that's why empty brackets. Now I want to have it as a command line implementation where it will display some information to the user. So I'm going to say print select operation. So I'm giving an option for my user to select an operation. I'm going to go ahead and put some spaces so it shows up all the way to the top. And then I'll say print first option is add. Copy that 4 times and you know what they are. So second option is subtract. The third option is multiply. And the fourth option I'll provide divide. Now I will write a loop which constantly goes and checks for users options what he has selected. So I'm going to say while true, I want to do this. So when you say while true, it will run in an infinite loop and give these options to user. So first step is I'm going to say let's take input from the user. So what this will do is on the command line, it will stop at this particular function or line of code and ask user enter choices which can be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Next, once I give this present this option to the user, I'll wait for the user's input. So just by saying input here on this particular line, on line number 29, what I'm doing is I'm giving an option to the user, and I'm stopping the entire program for receiving input from user. Next, I will check if the input is one of the four options, because what if user entered something else? So I am going to say if choice in, if the user's choice that they entered is one of these options, then what I will do is I will say number one. So that means I need the first number input from the user. So that might be in the float option, it might be a decimal point. So that's why I am asking whatever user entered, let's ask him to enter the first number. So whatever user has selected based on the four choices, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, I am asking, since it's one of the options that you have selected, what is the number that you want to provide as the first number? So that's my first number. Similarly, once that is done, I will ask the user, what is your second number? So if you want to do, let's say, addition, what is your first number for addition and what is your second number for addition? So once that is done, once I've selected those options, let's move it again a little bit to the top. I will ask user, I will check what user have selected. For example, if the user had selected 1 as their choice, which means user has selected addition, then I will print f, and here I'll say number 1 plus, so whatever user provided as number 1 and whatever user provided as number 2, I want to call the add function that we wrote earlier above and provide that number 1 and number 2 as options. So what this will do is this will take users input as first number and second number and call the add function in here, and whatever the answer is. So for example, I entered the first number choice as 1 and number 2 choice as 2. So then it will pass that 1 and 2 to this function, and I'll get the answer 3 in here, which will be displayed in this print statement. I'll say 1 plus 2 equal to whatever the output of this is, which is 3 in this case. So that's what we will see. So I am going to do this a bunch of times. The next one is for subtraction. Next one, 3, is for multiplication. And the option number 4 is division. Once the value is printed out here, depending on whatever the user selected and whatever numbers he provided, it will go back into the while loop. So I want to give an option for the user to exit out of that loop. So I am going to say here option to exit the loop, and here I will say next calculation. I'm creating a variable and I am asking the user, do you want to perform another calculation, question mark, and I'll ask either enter yes or no. So this will be presented to the user in the command prompt. So next I will check if the next calculation dot lower. So I'm converting whatever user has entered into lowercase, and I'm checking if that is not equal to yes, which means user has entered no or maybe something else. So in that case, I need to get out of this loop, which is the while loop, and get out of that complete function. So I can say print exiting calculator, goodbye. And of course this will be outside the loop right here, and then I will here call the calculator function. So the way it works is, since all these are functions here, none of them will be called in the start. So the first line of code that will be executed is here. It will say calculator. It will call this function. It will go in here and call this function. It will then print these to you and on the command prompt, and then run a while loop constantly until the user says, oh, my next calculation, I don't want to perform another calculation, I want to say no. So it will break out and come out and print this, or else it will keep on running this while loop and keep on asking you what is the next choice that you want. So let's run this and see how it looks like. So I'm going to open terminal, increase the size so it's visible, go to my online training which is on my desktop, and I'll see that I have day1.py. I'm going to clear it out and let's run this day1.py here. The way I run it is I say Python day1.py. It's asking me the questions. Do you want to add, subtract, multiply, divide? If I say 1, let's enter your first number, I'll say 56. Enter your second number, I'll say 28. And 56 plus 28 is equal to 84. It shows me in decimal dot 0 point as a float number because I was taking the input as float, just in case I want to support both whole numbers as well as float numbers. Now it's asking me, do you want to perform another operation? I'll say yes. This time I want to do subtraction. I'll say 20 minus 10, which is 10. Perfect. Yes, another operation. This time multiplication. Say 10 times 5 is 50. Perfect. Another operation. Yes. And this time I'll say I want to do division. First number 10. I want to divide by 0. And it says division by 0 not allowed because we had checked here if the user enters y as 0, the second variable as 0. I want to say error, division by 0 not allowed. Let's say yes again, and let's try another division operation. I'll say 55 divide by 5, that says 11. 5 times 11 is 55. That's why it's perfect. But if I say no here, it's going to say exiting calculator, goodbye, and now I'm out of that entire function and also the code. And clear it out. I can run it again. 3, 10, 3. Nope. Out of the calculator function. And this is our day 1, where what we did was we built a calculator function or a basic calculator where the calculator prompts the user to select one of the 4 operations: add, subtract, multiply, or divide. The user then inputs 2 numbers. The calculator performs the chosen operation and displays the result. And the user is asked if they want to perform another calculation. If not, the program exits. You can test the program by running it in your Python environment and let me know if you have any problems or issues in the comments, and I'll get back to you.